Hello everybody, welcome to qualifying day for the 13th running of the Velocity Online Racing 500-mile race at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. It is the Fast 9 qualifier here for the Indy 500, set to be held next week on March the 15th. I'm Julien Altena, providing you all the commentary, production, graphics and everything for the show tonight. The track cams will be operated by iRacing and the onboard cameras are created and provided by myself. Now, of course, this session is sponsored and brought to you by the Alzheimer's Association. They lead the way to end Alzheimer's and all other dementia. Please consider donating, or if you want to learn more, by going to ALZHEIMER'S. It's a great cause, and please do check it out. If you are able to donate, please do so as well. Now, the format for today, we've had 8 hours of running, and it is now time to get the fastest 9 drivers, the front 3 rows for the race next week. Here you can see on the screen the leaderboard. Jaco Seegers just missed out on the Fast 9. The Fast 9 drivers here today are going to be as follows: Carol Stout, Liam O'Sullivan, Craig Forsyth, Mason Mitchum, Jesper Orman, Luis Nunez, Kostek Solovic, Matthias Strauss and Matt Wagner. Now, the running order for qualifying is going to be the reverse order from the order in which the drivers finished the afternoon. So that means we are going to see Matt Wagner run first.
You are good to go.
And we got word from race control that Matt Wagner is going to be going out shortly. And here we are. And this is the moment where I hope all the graphics are working as they are intended to. Please do let me know as well of any audio problems, if there are any. So what you're seeing here is called engine warming, or heat cycling the engine. Basically what this is they're getting the oil temperature of the car to the optimum window to go fast. Of course, a warmer engine runs faster with higher RPMs than a cold engine. And of course, if you're trying to qualify for the pole position, that is what you want. So we'll wait for Wagner to finish up his engine warming for this qualifying session, and he will get his 4 laps underway very shortly. In the meantime, if you are interested in joining the series, we do have a bunch of races coming up here towards the beginning of May. Here's the schedule. Of course, next week, the 500-mile race. Then we have an off week until Nashville and Long Beach back-to-back, which may or may not be swapped with Portland. Closing out the season will be Homestead, Miami, and the Auto Club Speedway. So Wagner is out on track, and he will be the first to set a competitive run. Now, the most important thing here for this session is all drivers are required to run a clean 4 laps. This means that they cannot collect any incident points or anything of the sort, and everything about the run must be completely clean. So coming to the start of the first run today, Matt Wagner in his number 6 Team Watson Racing Penske inspired livery across the out of bricks to open his run. Keeping 230 miles per hour into turn 1. Just dipping below it in turn 2, but not a bad run by any means for Wagner, who's dealing with a sinus infection, so hopefully that all gets better for him quickly. As I can imagine, it's very uncomfortable. So let's see what this first lap is going to be. A good benchmark is the 39.29 that Carol Stout set earlier today. We're expecting lap times to be much lower here today because the track temperature has dropped off significantly. And there we go, the first lap is already at 39.205 for Wagner. And we'll try to update the average as quickly as possible. Across the line he goes for lap 2. Let's see how big or small the fall off is. And it's only 0.07 of a second, so not bad by any means, as he is still clearly tracking quicker than Carol Stout did earlier today. So that lap was a 2:73. Let's see if he can keep lap 3 below the 39.3 bracket as well. Now, we don't have the speeds available, unfortunately, which is the traditional way of Indianapolis, but we'll get those to you for the starting grid next week, when Gary Gotso and Kyle Clenworth will be on the call. Of course, tune in at 4 p.m. Eastern, actually, that is, with the time change. That will be the green flag time for the 500-mile race, as Wagner's third lap is the 3:26, so just dropping outside that 39.3's window. Currently tracking a 39.2 268. As out of turn 4 he comes for his final lap. And I'll be curious to see how this run is going to stack up against the Altena Autosport drivers, who have been looking pretty dominant all day, as Wagner completes his run with a 3:49 to close out his run. And that is a 2:88 average. So, of course, with the only car running, he is a provisional pole sitter.
Okay, Mr. Strauss, you're good to go.
All right, Matthias Strauss is going to be up next. Let's get the cameras on him. And just like Wagner, warming the engine to the optimum temperature. And, oh, I forgot to update the colors. That's my bad. So yeah, Matthias Strauss for Team Watson Racing, the second driver of the TWR stable, gonna run second. He was 8th quickest during the day. And I'm pretty sure Matthias only needed one run to get in the session here today, so hopefully all goes well for him in this one as well. He can get a good clean run in. Unlike Marcus Ericsson did in real life last year, which proved to be a very troublesome day for the driver of the real life number 28 car. So for those that need a reminder or are just tuning in, this is the Fast 9 qualifier. Here is the Fast 9 lineup. Wagner has just run. Matthias Strauss is up next. And then after Matthias, we will have Kostek Solowich on his run, as Strauss is rolling. And I'm expecting Strauss to be able to beat Wagner's time pretty comfortably, considering the amount of warm-up Strauss has had and Wagner has not. Of course, practice makes perfect, especially around the speedway. As here we go for Matthias Strauss's one and only attempt at potentially a front row starting spot. And we've got 17 viewers. That's pretty amazing to see. Thank you guys for tuning in. Hopefully my mic is alright and everything else around it. I don't usually stream. David Kreutz was supposed to stream, but unfortunately a last minute schedule conflict came up. Which means that instead of... Well, at least I didn't make the field, but if I did, I would have been trying to qualify for the front row. But instead I'll be broadcasting, which I have to say I don't regret. I enjoy doing it. Hopefully you guys do as well. But across the line, Matthias comes to complete his first lap of the Fast 9 shootout. And it's a 39.157. Which I do believe is already quicker than Wagner was running. So he's on the right path. And yeah, definitely noticing that he is able to keep a much more consistent speed through the turns, which of course is what you need. As little wheel steering resistance as possible, to have the least amount of scrub possible as well. so you don't lose that speed. Lap 2 is going to be a 2:36. So it is a slightly bigger drop-off than Wagner had, but his opening lap was definitely stronger. At the moment, his average is tracking to be a 39.1965, which is interesting, how we got 4 decimals in spreadsheets and not in iRacing. But let's see what this third lap is going to be. So the first lap had a fall-off of around 800s. Let's see what lap 3 is going to be, as it comes in across the line. And it's at 284. Not bad. Still tracking around 600s quicker than Wagner at the moment. Let's see what the fourth lap is going to be. Keeps it above 225 out of 4. That's a good speed to roll. And let's see what it is going to be. A 308. Which is going to put him on a 39.246. So that's going to take it over from Wagner.
Mr. Solowitz, you are good to go.
Only I can get the spreadsheet to sort properly. We'll just do it like this. There we go. Alright, Kostek Solowitz is going to be up next. And he is already out on track. Not bothering to engine warm, apparently, so he's just going to get on with it. The pole looking to put it on pole. In that beautiful green, black and almost chrome. It is chrome, actually. Chrome silver. Livery. So across the line he goes to open his Fast 9 shootout run. And actually goes below 230 in turn 1, which is not great. Not the end of the world, because the track temp is so low. We can actually bring that up here real quick. 65 degrees. For those using Celsius, that's 18 degrees. That is really cold. So it's not the end of the world, but there's not going to be much fall off in general. So he does have the wiggle room to improve on that as he comes across the line for his first run. $39.196, so slightly slower than Strauss, around 400 slower. But like I say, not the end of the world if he can get the second, third and fourth laps hooked up. He very well could still start from the front row even. Of course, for those inside the community know that Kostek can be a very quick driver. Still learning on the ovals, primarily a road racer, but he's definitely getting there with some more experience. Most notably, for us at least, in the Iconic Series on Fridays. As across the line he goes for a 39.3. That is a significant drop-off. And he's already tracking to a 2.72, so as it stands, of course, factoring in the slightly more drop-off that we will see, the natural fall-off, that will track him below Matt Wagner. But like I said on that one, nothing is done yet until it's actually over. And let's go on board with him here for this final fourth lap. Lap 3 is a 39.34. Let's see how he arcs these final 2 turns. You can hear a slight amount of scrub. And that might just cost him across the line. Let's see where it puts him on the board. As I would imagine, yes, it is a 362, which will put him on a 299. So that's going to be 3rd place for Kostek Solovic.
Mr. Nunez, you're good to go.
All right, here's going to be one of the more exciting qualifying runs. Luis Nunez for the Fiercely Forward team. In the beautiful yellow liveries. I do love those paint schemes. But Luis Nunez leads the points standings in the VOR IndyCar Championship Series. 27 points over, you guessed it, myself. I'll always be second. But Patrick Silvasi sits 3rd. So Luis does have a healthy jump over the rest of the field in the points. Now, remember, for those who are regular viewers to the series, the VOR IndyCar Championship does not allow the Indy 500 or the California 500 at the end of the season to be dropped. So this race is double points, cannot be dropped. So starting at the front for Luis Nunez at least is going to be very important to make sure that he doesn't lose any ground to his championship rivals. We've got Liam O'Sullivan yet to run, who is looking to go back to back. Of course, Liam O'Sullivan won the Indy 500 in the season 12 edition of the race. Take a guess who finished second to Liam again. So yeah, Liam definitely knows what he's doing. He won the iconic series race yesterday as well. As we are waiting for Luis to finish up his engine warming, which should be right about now, any second. But yeah, definitely the race for the championship, I think it's going to be between Liam O'Sullivan and Luis Nunez. Those two drivers very closely matched. As he is really careful with rolling speed. Now he has to be careful to not get a scrutiny penalty here, which is also a possibility by iRacing. If you run too slowly, it can actually waive your run. So he has to be really careful here. He's trying to optimize the tire life as best he can, but he will be at risk to invalidate that run. So hopefully for him he made it. It appears to be the case. So he should be alright. As he brings the car up to speed to open his qualifications run. 4th in line. Was the 6th quickest throughout the day. Sim audio is a little quiet, I'm hearing. Okay, let me up that a little bit. Don't want to do it too much. 5%. How is that? Let me know. Only barely dips below 230 in turn 3, which is pretty good. I think we're going to be witnessing a monster opening lap by Luis Nunez, with the way that he did everything perfectly on the warm-up. Oh, it's actually slower than I was expecting, a 189. That's barely any quicker than Solovic did. Looking towards the sun in turn 3 and also in turn 4. Like I mentioned, very low track temperature, 18 degrees Celsius, 65 Fahrenheit. So it is 100% golden hour, go fast time. As across the line he goes for a 250. Still tracking for provisional pole, but I would imagine he is actually a little disappointed with that run so far. Through turn 4, and yeah, you can just hear the scrub if you pay close attention. It's just too much, I think, for him to really pull that momentum on the front straight. And he might even be in the 3s here, or at least close to it. Yeah, he is in the 3s, 39.3. Not sure where the pace has gone for Luis, as he is really washing out towards the wall right there. Has to be real careful to not hit that, because it will invalidate your run. Out of turn 4, let's see where this run is going to put Luis Nunez. One of the favorites for the race next week. And it's a 3.34, so not a great run by Luis Nunez. That's actually going to put him second in the order.
Mr. Orman, you're good to go.
As race control is instructing Jesper Orman to go out. There is Jesper in his freshly repainted livery. Of course, jumping ship from IAR to Rogue Racing. A team affiliated with our usual broadcasting crew, P1. Of course, check those guys out as well. Gary Gotzo is the founder and main broadcaster of that channel. He's a great friend of mine, and he deserves all the help and the support and everything that he gets. He does a great job with everything he does. So if you don't already know him, go check his channel out, P1 Broadcasting. If you search for P1 Broadcasting on YouTube, you will find it. I have no doubt. He does many things like the IIS, the iRacing IndyCar series, the Indy Oval Fix series, and Clendy, of course, as well, the co-commentator for us. He, alongside Mark Murphy, does the Open series as well. So plenty of IndyCar action over on the P1 channel, and even some stock car action for the AMA Truck and Grand National Series by Mark Murphy, who is going to be starting from the mid-pack next week on P13. On the inside of row 5, that is. Let's see what Jesper's first time is going to be. The run, at least to me, looked a little bit better than Luis Nunez's did. And it's a 191, which is actually 0.02 of a second slower than Luis Nunez's run. So he's right with him, but on the wrong direction of it, at least for now. As Jesper speeds up towards turn 3. And he's about a mile an hour higher than Nunez was running, at least according to the overlay. And it's a 2.68 for lap 2 for Jesper Orman, which is 13,000 slower than Luis Nunez. So just like Luis, Jesper is not having the greatest run, and I have to admit as well, Jesper was also one of the favorites, along with Liam O'Sullivan, to go for the pole here today. But maybe we'll be surprised with a different pole sitter than perhaps most people expected. Of course, Carol Stout looked really strong earlier today. Although Carol is not really known to be an oval specialist, so I'll be curious to see what he can do. As Jesper Orman with a 3.22 on that third lap. So yeah, he's about 200ths per lap off, other than the opening lap, compared to Luis Nunez. And at the moment, he is tracking to be right behind Luis and in between Wagner and Nunez. So let's see if he can pull off the run with a clean run. Now remember, the runs have to be clean. And this will be subject to review post-qualifying. If a run is not found to be clean, it will be invalidated by race control post-race. So Jesper Orman, at least at the moment, will jump to a 39.342 with a 2.80 average, with just 8 thousandths of a second in front of Wagner.
Mr. Mitchum, you're good to go.
As we now switch focus to Mason Mitchum. Let's see what the one and only votive racing car in the Fast 9 can do. Shane Coker was actually scrambling to get in the field purely on speed. Of course, you have to qualify to make the race. And he did that, luckily, after 3 attempts. Third time's the charm. And now his teammate Mason Mitchum is going to run for perhaps the front row, maybe even the pole. Who knows? He is running Chevy Power, who have been dominant at the Indy 500 the last couple of years in real life. Now, of course, it doesn't make a single difference in the sim. We just have to build up a storyline, don't we? So Mason taking it very easy on the engine warm-up, which is interesting. He's keeping his RPMs really low. Now that will burn less fuel, which might allow him to go longer on the work, on the engine warming work, which could benefit him later on. I suspect he's gonna do something similar to Luis Nunez on pit out though, so he has to be careful to not invalidate the run. As I mentioned, it's very easy to do with the strict qualifying scrutiny here. So we have 4 cars left to run. Mason Mitchum is one of them. For those who are just tuning in, let's bring up the quick Fast 9 roster here again. As you can see on the list, we are all the way up to Mason Mitchum now already. So from the bottom to the top, we have Craig Forsyth, Liam O'Sullivan and Carol Stout left to run after Mason Mitchum's run is complete. And then the front 3 rows are all set. Now, if you pay attention to the timing tower on the left, Jaco Seegers, as I covered in the intro, just barely missed the Fast 9 shootout. He will start on the inside of row 4. Then it's Marcos Tissera and John Christensen alongside him. We'll have Mark Murphy, Sebastian Kinder and Nick Polliard sharing a row. Then it's Patrick Silvassi, Aidan Millward and myself up to row 6. Then we got Gary Lovern, Hugo Galaz and Jonas Weber on the 7th row. We got Tane Hodesson. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Hodesson maybe. And Shane Coker and Dan Enge on row 8. Then Matt Brewer, Lucas Santos and Timothy Bree on row 9. Row 10, it's going to be Ryan Walker, Max Molina, and Ray Rizza. And then on the final row is going to be Pim van Gastel, Ben Bennyworth, and perhaps any other late joiner for the race next week. The criteria to make the field without having set a qualifying time is championship points. So if you didn't make the field on qualifications day and you still want to race, it's going to be decided based on the points standings, which I have no doubt Gary Gotze will cover next week. I don't have those in front of me, at least at the moment. So Mason Mitchum taking his sweet time getting the engine into the right operating window for his run. Engine revs are slowly rising. I think we're finally going to see Mason Mitchum's run, as he is definitely taking the time to get his car on the screen. And there we go. There he goes. He finally rolls off. Very slowly. Gotta be careful to not invalidate, or else he would have wasted everyone's time. Alright, here we go. Mason Mitchum, qualifying attempt. Number 6. Alright, Mason Mitchum is on his way. To hopefully a front row qualifying position for him. It will be good to see the votive guys up at the front of the field. Of course, Mason running on the votive racing team, which is owned and operated by the same guy who runs the votive racing league, Shane Coker, who is doing race control duties for us tonight. Or today, depending on where you're watching from. Definitely check them out. The Votive Indy Oval Racing series runs on Sunday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern time. I almost said Wednesdays, which was the old time slot. But if you message Shane on Discord, Rafasha is his Discord. If you message him over there, he will get you sorted and run in the league. It's a great bunch of guys. It's a little bit too late for me to run in, but overall it's a really well-run league, which actually takes a lot of inspiration from us, so of course I say that. I'm just kidding. But Mason Mitchum first lap was a 1:63. Let's see what lap 2 is going to be. A 2:28. It's actually a pretty solid run so far. And at the moment only halfway into the run. That's going to track him to provisional pole. So we are going to speed up qualifying slightly as we had a delay with Mason Mitchum. So once the 4th lap for Mason starts, the next car will be allowed to roll out. And we'll switch over as soon as possible, of course. Just to make sure that we get every single run in.
Mr. Forsyth, you're good to go.
So a 270 for Mason Mitchum. That's a 220 average. Which is going to lead to the provisional pole. So Craig Forsyth is allowed to go out. We'll switch cameras immediately to him once Mason Mitchum's run is done. As out of turn 4, 226 out of turn 4 is the same drop-off as Luis Nunez had, but I think the first 3 laps were plenty enough to get the provisional pole. So it's a 299, so all of them inside the 39.2s. And that is a 2.4 average, which is an amazing run considering the engine warming he must have done, so it definitely paid off. And there we go, just in time, Craig Forsyth has completed his engine warming process and he is out on track. Gotta be careful here, Craig. He's running real slow, 115. As there he goes, accelerating up through the gears to start his run. Let's see what turn 1 is going to be. Ooh, a little bit wide actually. Not the greatest of lines. But then again, what do I know? I didn't make the Fast 9. Maybe that's just the fastest way around. It's the Helio Castroneves line. So I'm sure it works just fine. Just not the traditional line that you typically see at Indy. As drivers usually maximize the amount of track available, and he is down the white line in turn 4. Craig Forsyth running on the 40 Racewear team, who have also been a long-time sponsor of ours. Check out 40racewear.com for excellent sim racing shoes, gloves, other apparel, that kind of stuff. It's awesome stuff and material as well. Craig runs those shoes and gloves himself. I'm sure he'll tell you plenty about it as well if you ask. But I just want to say thanks to Jim as well for the long-time support, not only of the league, but also for Craig and his team and everything around it. Jim's a great guy, just like Craig. And it will be good to see those guys at the front of the field here for qualifying. So first lap was a 1:86. Lap 2 is going to be a 2:47, which isn't an awful lot slower than Mitchum. At the moment, that's tracking to be third quickest, just in front of Luis Nunez. As the Forsyth Racing legacy bearer, or carrier I should say, comes across the line to start his final lap, and we should have the next car out on track here shortly. And there we go, that's the call for Liam O'Sullivan, who is the next qualifier to go. Lap 3 is a 39.292. Still tracking to be third quickest. Across the line he goes to complete his qualifications run, 4 laps. And it's a 3:13, which will put him in third place. And let's round that off to a 260, because it's like a 2596. Alright, let's switch cameras to Liam O'Sullivan real quick so we don't miss his run. We got 7 minutes left, which should just be about be enough for Carroll Stout to get his run in too. Alright, we're getting word that race control is going to move things along further, because otherwise we will not be able to get Carroll Stout's run in, which of course would be a big shame. So once Liam starts his third lap, Carroll Stout will be allowed to warm his engine on pit lane, prepare for his run. And considering we've caught Liam even before he started this out lap, we will be just fine covering all the runs. Alright, lap number 1 for Liam O'Sullivan well underway. That's the driver we're following, Liam O'Sullivan.
Mr. Stout, you're good to go.
So we're going to send out Stout real early just to make sure we get all the runs in. Now, of course, if you're just tuning in, we had, let's say, a lengthy warm-up period by Mason Mitchum, who has kind of threw a spanner in the works for everyone here with the lengthy warm-up, which got most of us in trouble here on time. So we're going to send out the final driver earlier so we make sure we don't run out of time. But lap number 1 for Liam O'Sullivan is a 1:51, which is really competitive. Let's see if he can keep this speed up. And I'm sure Carol Stout's heart will be in his throat. He qualified for the Open Wheels 500 with Liam. I didn't make the show that day, but still got to race. But still, I think Carol, despite having that one race of experience, I think is still pretty inexperienced for Indy 500 qualifications. So hopefully for him, he can handle it all. Lap 2 is a 2:14, which is an excellent run so far. Tracking to be the provisional pole. As across the line, Liam goes with 4 minutes to go. Carol Stout is rolling, I do believe. So once Liam finishes his run, we'll immediately switch focus to Carol Stout. It's a 2:53 for Liam O'Sullivan, and this is tracking to be the provisional pole at the moment. It's a 2:32 average, which at the moment already beats Mason Mitchum's average by 8 thousandths of a second. And this run entirely has been tracking better than his. So Liam O'Sullivan, I have no doubt, will jump to the top of the pylon here in about 5 seconds time when he crosses the line. Across the line he goes, Liam O'Sullivan. Is it going to be the provisional pole? Yes, it is. 2:92, which is a 2:27 average. Let's immediately switch to Carol Stout. There he is, already on his first lap. Into turn 3. Coming through turn 4. Let's see what his first lap is going to be. Now remember, Carol Stout is the last car to run today. So this is going to be it. He's either going to be on pole or he's not going to be on pole. It's that simple. Same goes for Liam O'Sullivan. First lap 1:69. 18 thousandths of a second slower than Liam O'Sullivan. And his speed for turn 2 is really not that great. He's going to drop off significantly compared to O'Sullivan here. Is the gold going to have to settle for silver in qualifications here today? We'll find out in about 2 minutes. And lap 2 for Carol Stout, is it? It's in the 2s as well. So that's going to be a 2:40. Tracking to be a 2:38, which is just barely in front of Mason Mitchum so far. Carol needs to pick up the speed and the consistency as well, which is not ideal. If you have to pick up one, it has to be just one and not both. So this is not tracking in the right direction for Carol Stout at all to even be on the front row. According to our timing and scoring, at least, that is. Now remember, these qualifying results are unofficial and are subject to post-qualifying review by race control. And the lap 3 is, again, really not that great. He's already dropped off to a 2:45, which is just barely in front of Strauss. I think Strauss is going to be safe on the front row and Stout is going to be qualifying 4th here. But like I said on the very first run of the day, with a minute left on the clock, the runs are not over until they are over. Maybe Carol Stout can pull a rabbit out of the big hat. Maybe pull off something magical to get back on that front row. But at least at the moment, it is really not looking like it. The stopwatch doesn't lie though. Let's see. Is it inside the 3s? It's just barely outside it. And that is a 39.25. Almost exactly. That's going to put him 4th on the starting grid provisionally. And that is going to wrap up the Fast 9 shootout here today. So at the moment, as it stands, before race control review, of course, we have to make that very clear. Liam O'Sullivan on the provisional pole with a 39.227, and I will actually get the average here really quickly. 2.5 miles, 39.227. That is 229.434 miles per hour, which is about half a mile an hour shy of the 230 bracket, which is a mile an hour slower than the previous season's pole speed with cooler temperatures. So that's to be expected with the slightly hotter temps. But that's going to wrap it up for qualifications. Let's see if we got Liam O'Sullivan available for a quick chat. As we will get all the overlays off the screen. Hey Liam, congratulations on a, at least so far, pole position for the Indy 500 next week. That is of course subject to qualifying review, but I have no doubt you kept it all clean within the white lines and everything. Just quickly talk to me about your run and also your teammate Carol Stout perhaps underperforming a little bit. 'Well, you sure have done a great job on it. We'll have to find out how the race is going to pan out, though. We may or may not be using the original setup we were going to use last season for this one. So we'll see how that race plays out. But before we dive into that race next week, any expectations for the race next week, other than maybe the quite obvious statement for a win? 100%. Any shoutouts? All right. Well, thanks a lot, Liam, for talking to us, and we'll see you next week for the race. All right, that's going to wrap up the qualifying show. Um, I have to say, a bit anticlimactic qualifications, Brad. I was actually expecting Carol Stout to jump all the way to the top based on his qualifying runs from earlier today, but still a fourth place for him is not too bad. Liam O'Sullivan going to be starting from the front next week. Now, of course, if you are just tuning in, we've just completed qualifying for the Indy 500. Here is the full leaderboard as it stands, subject to race control review, of course. Liam O'Sullivan on the pole, Mason Mitchum second on the middle of row 1, Matthias Strauss on the outside of row 1. Then there's Carol Stout, Craig Forsyth, and Luis Nunez on row 2. Jesper Orman, Matt Wagner, and Kostek Solowich complete the third row and the Fast 9 shootout. So coming up here, of course, next week is the elephant in the room, the Indy 500. Then we got an off week until the Nashville Super Speedway on March 29th, which is actually a day after my birthday. So hopefully that race is going to be a lot of fun. Then on April 5th, we got the Long Beach Grand Prix, tentatively scheduled. It may or may not switch to Portland, which is being released on Tuesday on the iRacing service. So then we got another couple weeks off for Easter and real life racing before we return to Homestead and Auto Club Speedway to close out the season for 800 miles of oval action to the championship. So that's going to wrap it up for us here today at Velocity Online Racing. I want to thank everyone who tuned in. Hopefully all the settings were all correct with all the audio and all the frame rates and everything. Didn't look like anything was wrong on the thing. So hopefully it all played out correctly. So thanks everybody for watching. Next week's Indy 500 will be covered by Gary Gotzo and Kyle Clentworth. Make sure to tune in at 4 p.m. Eastern with the time change. That's still going to be 9 p.m. Central European time until we switch a couple weeks later. So that's again 9 p.m. European time, 8 p.m. UK time, and 4 p.m. Eastern US time. Thanks everybody for watching once again, and we'll see you next time.